Hi, today I'm making a really nerve-wracking emotional video, and I'm going to be talking about my eating disorder story, which is something that is really kind of hard for me to talk about because it was a really difficult time in my life. But by sharing this story, I just want to help others realize that you're not alone, and just share with you my experience. Just as a general warning, I'm going to be talking about suicide and self-harm and cutting. So I know those can be really triggering topics, so I just want to warn you that I'm going to be talking about that. So before we get into the story, I'm going to be talking about my just experience and with food. I was born at 28 weeks, so I had a lot of health problems, and so I was allergic to gluten and dairy. I was basically vegan, not by choice, but just because my stomach couldn't handle any type of not only solid food but any type of liquid. So I was really dehydrated, and anything that I was throwing up was just pure stomach acid, which made my throat really I had a bunch of sores inside. It was really disgusting. I'm also autistic, so I really am bothered by smell, texture, and just general taste of it. If it doesn't smell good, I won't eat it. If I just don't like the texture with my hands, I won't even put it near my mouth. It's very, I have a lot of sensory issues with not only food, but other things, but mainly food. So I've always struggled with being underweight, and my doctors basically told my mom anything that I could eat is good because I need to get some type of calories. And I was really close to being on a feeding tube, but they didn't think that was the best choice especially since I was so premature. So that's a little bit of backstory on that. Now we're going to get into when my eating disorder fully started and kind of what triggered it. You don't always know, unfortunately, what triggered your eating disorder, but for me, I'll just get into the story. I'm not good at storytelling, as you can tell, but it's fine. This all kind of started in 6th grade, 5th, 6th grade. I kind of started to get a little chubby. I have like normally really chubby cheeks, but I was just getting really chubby, and I noticed that all of the other girls were really skinny. And not to sound rude or anything, but they kind of all looked the same. They were all skinny, and they kind of all had really similar body types. So I started to notice that. And because I was playing so many sports at once, I started to become really muscular, which for me, I just thought I was fat, but I wasn't. It was just muscle. I was starting to get muscular, and this is around the time where I got like really serious into gymnastics. So I had practice like every day for 4 hours, and you're building muscle when you're doing that. So I just started to get really muscular and thought that was really bad, really gross, and I realized I didn't look like any of the other girls. So I've always had really high anxiety, and I've been on so many different medications to try and just get at a point where I can actually cope with it and use my coping mechanisms and just not get rid of it completely, but get rid of it so I can actually feel like I'm in reality. Because when my anxiety is really high, I just lose sense of reality. Like I don't even feel like I'm alive sometimes. It's just this weird feeling that I can't really describe. So in 6th grade, my anxiety became so extremely high. I was constantly nauseous. I couldn't sleep. My heart was always racing to the point where I actually thought I was gonna have a heart attack. And I just felt sick all the time. I started getting really bad headaches, and I was just shaking all the time. I didn't exactly know what was happening because up until that point, I had really never experienced anxiety like that, but it was really terrifying to me. But I just thought I was like, I'm probably just like stressed. Like I just started middle school. We had to move and just all of this stuff was going on, and I just thought my body was stressed and it was just really overstimulated. So fast forward a couple weeks, my parents kind of started to fight a lot, like my mom and my stepdad. And I have a stepsister, but she wasn't there every day. So most of the time I was just by myself in my room, just listening to them argue for hours on end and trying to get my homework done, but couldn't. And I kind of just felt like my life was out of control. Like I had no control in anything, not even food. So that even spiked my anxiety even more, and I just couldn't eat. It was just awful. I couldn't eat anything. I felt so nauseous. I felt like I was gonna pass out because I couldn't eat. And my stomach was growling, but I was so nauseous to the point where even the thought of food made me want to throw up. And I have a fear of throwing up. It's not as bad anymore, but at that time it was really, really bad. And I just couldn't eat anything. I couldn't even drink water because it just made me feel so sick. So my mom kind of started to notice that I was kind of losing weight. And I also had other things, like other symptoms as well. My hair started falling out like in clumps. Like when I would shower and I would like massage like my hair to get like the shampoo out, just like these clumps of hair would come out, and it was so terrifying because I thought I was just like losing my hair. I do shed a lot, but when it's in clumps, that's like becomes really worrisome. I was always cold all the time. My skin was so dry no matter what. No matter how much lotion or moisturizer I used, it was always dry. And my nails became really brittle and disgusting. Like I had absolutely no nails. Like my nails were probably like little stubs to like here. You couldn't even see like a nail. It was absolutely disgusting. So I also started to feel really like woozy, kind of I don't know how to explain it. Just that woozy feeling that like if you stood up, I felt like I was gonna pass out. And I was just cold all the time, even though this was like kind of during summer and it was like 100 degrees. I was wearing several layers because I was so cold. No matter what I could do, I was freezing. And just all these things were really, I didn't know what was happening to my body at the time. I didn't really fully know what an eating disorder was. I knew of it, but I didn't understand like precautions and consequences of it and just the experience of it. So I came to my mom and I kind of told her like, hey, like my hair's falling out. I'm freezing all the time. My nails are so brittle. Like, what's going on? She's like, okay, like I'll take you to the doctor. Let's see what's going on. I just thought I'm anemic. So I kind of just thought it was like all linked to that. But it wasn't. So a couple days later, she takes me to the doctor and they do a full blood panel and a urine test, and all of my levels were so low. she was surprised, my doctor was surprised that I like hadn't passed out or anything. She kind of just asked me like, what have you eaten? Like, are you eating okay? Like, what are you eating? And I just told her like nothing. Like, I can't even drink water. I was so dehydrated that I completely stopped peeing, and it was just really bad, really, really bad. So she became really concerned, and I was born with 2 holes in my heart, which haven't fully closed up yet, but I do have a bit of a murmur. So she was really concerned that like my heart was gonna stop at any moment, or just or I would have a heart attack. So she noticed that I obviously had no energy because there was no food in my system, and we just all became really concerned. I didn't even know what was happening. I was so clueless. So she told me like, go get like a smoothie or something, like just make sure you're eating lots of fruits and veggies. And I was like, okay. Like, I honestly didn't have the energy in me to actually tell her what was going on inside my head and how high my anxiety was and how I felt about my body image. So she wanted me to come back next week and just see where my weight was at. At that point, I was probably like 4'9". I'm only 4'11", which, yes, I'm 17 and I'm 4'11". But I barely weighed, like, I didn't even weigh 80 pounds. I barely weighed like 72 pounds, which I looked like an actual skeleton. It was really scary. So I went back the next week, and she noticed that I had lost like 4 pounds, and she just automatically became really concerned. She felt like, well, she knew that my organs would start to shut down, and they kind of already did start to shut down. And my heart was just beating really, really slow, and it was just really, really bad. She was surprised that I was even alive and able to walk. It was really terrifying. So she kind of mentioned to my mom like about an eating disorder, and I'm really glad she did, because I wasn't able to tell her what exactly was going on and stand up for myself. So I'm really just grateful that my doctor was able to help me get treatment for this. So she mentioned an eating disorder clinic and mentioned that I do inpatient, just because I was at a point where it was really life or death. Like, she told my mom, she was like, we don't know like how long she's gonna live for anymore, which was really hard, because at the time I was only like, okay, let's see, math. Let me do real quick math. I was only like 12 or something. I don't even know. Somewhere around there. And so she really recommended it. My mom was like, yeah, of course, because my mom obviously doesn't want me to die. So we came back from the appointment, and I got like blood work and stuff. And I remember just sitting in the car, like completely just not even in touch with reality. Like, I was in the car just like this, like barely even blinking. I just felt like I was gonna pass out. I felt so gross. I felt absolutely disgusting, not only with myself, but just with what was going on, even though I didn't even understand it, which I think was like really the worst part, not understanding what you're going through. Because I couldn't reach out to other people for help because I didn't even know what was going on. So it was just really really hard to go through it. And honestly, at the time, I didn't really have any friends. Like, I was kind of being bullied at school. This is kind of when bullying started. So I had no one really except my mom and my stepsister, which at the time we weren't very close, but after like all this stuff happened, we became so close. Like, we're really close. Which I'm super grateful for. So my mom like registered me, and I met all of the therapists there, and she recommended me starting with outpatient first and seeing how that worked, and then going to inpatient. We lived like about an hour and 15 minutes away from the clinic, so every morning my mom and I would wake up at 5 a.m. and we would leave our house about 6 and get there around like 7:15, 7:30. And just because they have to do like check-in, weigh-in, all that stuff. And my mom was actually working at the time, but she really just had to change her whole entire schedule, which is crazy and kind of upsetting for me because I kind of put her in that position. But fortunately, she has a really like flexible job, so she makes her own schedule, so it wasn't too much of a hassle. So I went there every day. I would go and see my therapist, my like group of people that I was with. I'd pick out like the foods that I like and don't like on this little like menu, and the lady like told me like all the like amounts of foods that I should be eating for like at minimum, and she just like explained like everything, like this will happen like if you don't eat, like you're gonna die, which is really terrifying to hear, but it kind of needed to be done. So at the clinic, my anxiety was just really bad. Like, it was even worse than it was before, and which made me not want to eat anything at all. Like, I just felt like anytime I ate, I was gonna throw it back up, so what's the point? And I was like, I need to look a certain way, I need to be skinny like all the other girls, which was just, it was really a hard time. So I did a weigh-in about 2 weeks after starting in outpatient, and instead of gaining weight, I actually lost 8 pounds. So at this point I was like 65 pounds. I literally looked like a skeleton, and it was just so bad. So this was all like during summer going into 7th grade. So the lady was like, you can't go to school, like you need to either do online school or homeschooling or just find a different alternative, which was really upsetting to me because I really love school, and not being able to go to school is really upsetting for me. So I was just really like in this really severe depression, anxiety phase, and it was just, I didn't even know like what was going on. Like, I wasn't even living my life. I didn't even have a life, which is sad to say, but so she recommended me becoming inpatient, and I remember just her telling my mom first, and my mom was just like full on like sobbing, like I could hear her from like across all the rooms. And I got into the car and she told me, and we kind of just drove home in silence, not knowing what was next, what was gonna happen. I reached my lowest point of depression. I've dealt with anxiety and depression for pretty much my entire life. But I was at a point now where nothing was worth it. Like, I didn't have anyone in my life. Even though I had like my family and my parents' support, and my stepsister's support, but there was no reason to live anymore. And I had just become this numb person. I became numb to the core, where no matter how awful someone said something to me, no matter how like morbid it was, I couldn't even cry. No emotion at all. And I became completely numb. So I resorted to cutting. And I would cut my wrists and just do it in secret so that no one would know. And I would just cover up my wrists, and like cover the cuts up with like concealer and foundation. Yeah, I didn't have anything to live for. So I remember like telling my mom, like, I wish I was never born. Like, why did this have to happen to me? Why couldn't I have just died as a baby? Like, why did I even have to exist? And I grew up Catholic. I'm more of a Christian now, but I was just really upset with God because I didn't understand why he had to put me through this, why I had to go through this. Like, I didn't understand it at all. Like, why did this have to happen to me? So I continued cutting for about 3 months before I finally told my mom about it. So the clinic wasn't really working for me. I didn't feel any better. If anything, I lost even more weight. And my organs started to shut down. My vitals were just really bad. My BPM was just so low. And it was just so bad. So, I knew it wasn't working. I didn't even know, like, if this could continue. Like, I didn't think that I was gonna live another day. So, my mom noticed. She's like, it's not helping. It's just making my anxiety worse. There was a time where I didn't sleep for 3 days because I was just so anxious. I couldn't even sleep. My mind was just racing and it was really bad. So my mom decided that we would just put me, they already had put me on a really high calorie diet, but I didn't like any of the foods that they had. And I can't eat in front of people unless I really like know them. Like, eating like at a restaurant in public is really just awkward for me. Like, I'll only eat some of my food, bring it home, and then eat it later at home. Like, it's just really, I don't like eating in front of people unless it's like my mom or like my boyfriend or like my best friend, something like that. So I started literally eating everything in sight. And I slowly started to gain weight. And it took a really long time. It took a really large amount of time to just eat one meal and not freak out that I was going to gain weight or just throw it up. And I stopped cutting I still had thoughts of suicide, but I was able to minimize that and stop myself before I cut. And I'm here today. So, obviously there's like consequences and after effects to an eating disorder. My kidneys don't work as well as they used to. This summer actually, this summer, and last year, there was just a bunch of things in my urine that shouldn't be in my urine, that my kidney should filter out, but they just aren't working the way they should. So I'm on they monitor my kidneys. My hair dyed. I had really long hair. My hair was probably past to my ribs. And because it just fell out and became super thin and brittle, I had to cut it all off. I had to cut it to here, a bob basically. My skin was really, really dry for the longest time. My heart rate was just super low. It was constantly low. And the eating disorder just affected my mental health. I didn't cut, but I was in a state of depression where I just could not stop crying. And I lost all motivation to do anything. And actually, because of my eating disorder, I had to quit gymnastics. I had to quit all my sports. And that was the one thing where I felt normal. So that really took a toll on me. And my anxiety just became so bad. And while all of this was happening, I told absolutely no one that I went to school with. They were, on the first day of school, I obviously wasn't there. And they were all texting me. They were like, hey, where are you? My classmates. And I was like, oh, I'm just, sick. I don't know how to explain it. It was just all so confusing. Not only for them, but for me. I was so confused. I obviously have days where I really struggle with the way I look at myself and food. I don't really like Thanksgiving anymore just because of all the food. It gives me so much anxiety looking at all that food. I can't do it. It just makes me sick. But overall, I'm back to a healthy weight, and I can play sports again. And I'm just doing better, which I'm so happy for, so grateful for. A lot of people don't make it through eating disorders. It's one of the more really frightening mental illnesses. But the point of this whole story is just know that you're not alone, and there is help, there is treatment. You will get through it, and you'll still struggle even when you get through it, but you have to find all those good things in your life that you can live for and find happiness in. So I really hoped that you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys later.